Hello and welcome to Ginger Prime. My name is Brian, and for returning subscribers, welcome back Soul Nation, you beautiful, magnificent human beings. Thanks for being here. We're going to dive in to this video answering hopefully your questions about Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, giving you the information that you need. But as always, if you have questions about the game, what New Genesis means for the future of Phantasy Star Online 2, and more, feel free to sound off in the comments below. This should hopefully be a good primer for what's going to be happening here in June when the game officially launches. So anyway, this is going to be our new player frequently asked questions. Let's go ahead and dive into the questions and answers, and then let's get you back out there playing some video games. But first and foremost, let's go ahead and define what New Genesis is, because I get this question all the time on stream. First and foremost, Phantasy Star Online 2, what exists today, can be played. Your progress, to a degree, and we'll cover that more in detail in this video, can actually move into New Genesis. New Genesis is a game that takes place 1,000 years in the future from the base PSO2, but you can freely transition between them within the same game. By just going to the elevator or node, you can switch between the old PSO2, the current essentially, and New Genesis. This is potentially what's going to help change and revolutionize games as a service games, especially have a long running life to them. You do not have to abandon your current PSO2. You can actually go play PSO2 today and actually start racking up things that can carry into the New Genesis game as well. So there's a lot of value proposition. If you find something that you like that's actually in the old game, you can just pop back and go and work and grind that up as well. So there is a lot here to be excited about. I think as a programmer myself, I'm generally curious to see the reception of this and see how well gamers respond to what Phantasy Star Online 2 is actually doing in this case. But anyway, the first biggest question, based off of what I just gave you, what can you bring from Phantasy Star Online 2 to New Genesis? And so weapons, units, and mags will transfer to New Genesis, but they're going to behave completely differently. Weapon stats and augments, as well as potentials, are also going to change as well. Units are going to become armor, and then it is not visible. Even units that have been obtained in PSO2 will become invisible in New Genesis. Much like your weapons, your stats, your augments, and potentials will all change. Mags are going to become more cosmetic, keeping their evolution device data, but not actually providing stats and combat benefits. It is worth noting that weapons and units actually transferred from PSO2 may not immediately be usable until your character reaches a certain level requirement for them. So let's talk about that. When you go to PSO2, regardless of your class, regardless of your actual level, you're going to start at level 1. Think of this as a kind of a different character. They are connected, but you're going to have a level 1 character because it's also a different battle system. It's a new game overall. The following items actually have been confirmed not to transfer to New Genesis. Your skill rings, consumable items used for battle growth and enhancement, boost items, that's various tri-boosters and things like that, increase your experience and overall items is more like that. Your materials, your room furnishing, any currency other than your Arcs cash and star gems. So if you're actually looking right now to be playing the game saying, hey, should I be playing PSO2 today? The answer is yeah, you can totally do it. And your Arcs cash, any of the real currency money that you have, as well as your star gems, any of the premium currency that you earn by playing the game will actually go into New Genesis as well. So a little bit more on the currencies themselves. While your AC and star gems will actually transfer between the two, and those are going to be shared. So if you use them in the New Genesis stores, you're using your star gems across the board. But your meseta, your fun, your any other currencies are going to be greatly that basically affect the balance of the game's economy at release. These are not going to be shared between New Genesis and base PSO2. New Genesis is actually going to have a new main currency. They're calling it New Meseta in this regards. So PSO2 and New Genesis are going to have separate inventories. So PSO2's inventory can only store PSO2 items, while New Genesis inventory can only store New Genesis items. So you're not going to be transferring items back and forth. Character growth, including class levels and experience, class skills, photon arts, techniques, and titles are also not going to transfer over in the game. So what fashion actually is going to transfer over? Fashion is a big aspect for Phantasy Star Online 2, so it's important that you know this segment right here. The following fashion items will transfer to New Genesis: outerwear, outfit, body parts, arm parts, leg parts, weapon camos, items registered from tickets such as basewear, innerwear, body paint, hairstyle, head parts, accessory, emote, voice, makeup patterns, stickers, eyebrows, eyelashes, eyes, and face variants. How will cosmetics from PSO2 work in New Genesis and vice versa? All outfits, wearable items, and cast parts from PSO2 can be used in New Genesis and vice versa. However, there is now going to be 2 different modes, physiques, for your character depending on what game and currently equipped outfit, wearable items, cast parts, and or body parts originate from. It is also very specifically mentioned that PSO2 body paint will not be usable in New Genesis physique, and that PSO2 New Genesis body paint will not be usable in the PSO2 physique. So the engine for this game is getting fully upgraded, so you're going to have a lot more options when it comes to character curation, and they've shown off this character creator, and it's honestly incredibly impressive. Beyond that itself, there's so much that you can do. It makes sense that you're going to have some kind of stuff that's only going to affect New Genesis and stuff that will only affect PSO2. So you're just going to have to kind of play around with character creator. I would venture to bet you're not going to be disappointed. I think especially if we see anything massively popular when it comes to the game, when it comes to any kind of thing, that they'll either, if it's not on day one, they'll work to get it added in at the end of the day, because that's kind of a big part of their business model overall. So in addition to finger movement, it's only going to be available in your New Genesis physique. That's exactly kind of what I'm talking about. You can move your fingers and actually have finger emotes and more in the New Genesis engine, but even though it's the same engine, you're not going to see that brought back into base PSO2. So face variants, hairstyles from PSO2 will actually be usable in New Genesis, although naturally those are going to come from New Genesis are going to be a higher quality. New Genesis is also going to be able to use different types of physiques, and this does not apply to pupils, eyebrows, and makeup patterns that come from New Genesis, as these will not be usable in PSO2 face variants. Pupils, eyebrows, eyelashes, and makeup patterns from PSO2 cannot be used in New Genesis face variants. You cannot mix layered wear or cast parts from both games. All accessories from PSO2 will be usable in New Genesis. New accessories from New Genesis can be used in PSO2 and will have a greater customization. So, what about features that I've actually spent a C and SG on? Like crafting lines and extra collection of file slots. So premium set is shared between games. This also includes material storage, extended storage, character storage, sub-palette expansion, and your personal shop. It was specifically mentioned, however, that because of the different game systems, New Genesis's inventory expansion, skill tree additional slots, skill tree addition, and expand max orders limits and personal quarters use will not take effect in New Genesis. They will continue to work in PSO2. Extra mags and auxiliary partners will also not carry over. So what races are going to be in a New Genesis? Humans, Numans, Casts, and Dumans. However, during the character creator, you can select a body type, which are Human Type 1, Human Type 2, male and female, basically, Cast Type 1, Cast Type 2, male and female. Numan ears and Duman horns are instead now selected, much like any other character customization feature, like accessories and hair. These fields are huge. How does traveling in them work? Transitioning to new areas is as simple as walking into it. There are no longer loading screens upon moving to new areas, even when going from the lobby to the field. Devices exist through all the fields and act as your fast travel, and you have Photon Dash and Photon Glide to actually help you navigate the fields much faster. So how do enemy spawns work in these massive fields? Explaining this requires an explanation of the sections of adventure areas as they are called. Exploration sections have you gather materials and ingredients from both the Faka around the tame monsters, or fauna. I don't know why I said Faka. These monsters appear to spawn randomly in the section, and killing them gives you materials. So for battle sections, you have to fight enemies, which consist of dolls and altars. Combat involves running towards the target marked with the enemies with either E, enemy spawn, or T, trial, where an emergency trial is taking place. These markers work similarly to how they work in the Tokyo, Las Vegas areas in PSO2, where enemies spawn near target the markers. What makes them different from PSO2 is that multiple markers can be active at any time. You can choose which one to tackle first. How many players can actually be in the same instance as each other? The maximum amount of players appears to vary depending on the different area, showing 8 on the maximum player count indicator in battle sections and 32 for exploration sections. So is PSO2 New Genesis also going to be free to play? And yes, PSO2 New Genesis is keeping the same transaction model as PSO2. It will be free to play with the entire game being playable at no cost. Premium items will still be available, and a My Shop feature has also been seen. So what's going to happen to the original PSO2? Well, as New Genesis says, that you're going to play in both universes, with them existing side by side. PSO2 will receive a graphics engine overhaul to match New Genesis, and both games will allow you to use the same character. However, PSO2's Japanese roadmap does not mention anything beyond Episode 7, which is New Genesis. Other than the graphics engine overhaul, we do not know how PSO2 will be supported in the future, and I would venture to bet that you're going to see them just any kind of updates, minor updates to the game. I don't think we're going to see them make massive investments in base PSO2. I think that's going to be like, yes, it's preserved, it's here, but all future development is going to be rocking into New Genesis going forward. So what classes are you going to be able to pick in New Genesis? And that's going to be Hunter, Fighter, Ranger, Gunner, Force, and Techer. So you're noticing probably some missing from PSO2 base game. I'm just going to keep calling it the base. Basically, Braver, Bouncer, Summoner, and the successor Scion classes, Phantom, Hero, Étoile, are not available, or Luminaire. For those additional classes, they have not yet made any kind of announcement of when they're going to be available in New Genesis. And regarding the successor Scion classes, those have actually, some of those skills and stuff have made their way into the other classes that we already have access to. So Hunter is now going to have a counterattack that they can perform by dodging through an attack, much like Hero. They also now swing their sword one-handed sometimes, and can also perform another kind of counterattack when pressing the attack button right after a perfect guard. Ranger now not only has gained a counterattack from dodging an attack similar to Hero Phantom, but they now have a dedicated rifle weapon that action that flings you in the direction that you choose, kind of like a cross between Phantom's rifle Verberkirchen and Ranger's rifle parallel slider. Force has gained the mobility of Étoile's wand, floating around, and then they are holding their rod. Their Barta also creates a marker on enemies that can be detonated, similar to a Phantom markers, and their Photon Blast shoots a giant laser, similar to Étoile's wand, Luminous Flare, Photon Art. They can also now guard with their rod, much like Étoile's wand as well. So are Monomates and Admatizers and still available? Healing items are actually gathered through the flower-looking objects on the field this time around. You heal yourself using rest assigns, when these can actually be stacked up to 10 at a time and are consumed by using them from your sub-palette. These rest assigns are gathered from the green flower-looking objects, and reverter signs actually take the place of moon atomizers, and they are gathered from the yellow flower-looking objects in the fields and can be stacked up to 5 at a time. Regarding the story and the world, so, like we said, when does PSO2 New Genesis take place? And the story is set 1,000 years after the events of PSO2 base, and the next generation of Arks settling on planet Hapala. Conflict will soon arise when a new threat of outer space, when dolls begin appearing with no explanation. Around the same time that the dolls begin appearing, mysterious individuals appeared from Meteoron that fell from the sky. Despite possessing no memories of their past, these individuals possess skills which make them effective at combating the dolls, and ultimately join Arks to combat this threat. So, do we have any of the names of the fields? And yes, you can actually see a proper map in the wiki via smartphone. I'll include a link in the description of this video for all of this information. So if you guys want to just go read it for yourself, or you want to go look at everything that's been compiled, you can check the description of this video for more. Regarding technical performance, will I need to install a separate client to play New Genesis? And no, you can actually, one client operates both games. So this is going to exist in the same client. You're going to choose which you want the player to select from the select screen. You can also change the games by iterating with the block teleporter in PSO2 and the recurror device in New Genesis. The launcher from New Genesis closed beta test actually is the new setting for the game in the form of a drop-down box, and this setting controls PSO2 additional data files that are downloaded or not, and has the following options. Don't download PSO2 data at all. Download PSO2 data, but only while you're playing New Genesis. Download PSO2 in the launcher first before you play New Genesis, so you get a couple options there. By default, the section option is chosen, and you'll get to download indicator from the top right of the screen with the percentage while playing New Genesis. PSO2 data is completely optional, and it does not need to be downloaded to play New Genesis. However, to go to the PSO2 side, you're actually going to have those files downloaded. So what platforms is it going to exist on? Well, in Japan, the release is going to be on Windows and PlayStation 4, as well as a cloud version will be available for Nintendo Switch and Windows. The global version, that's North America and Europe and anywhere that isn't pretty much in these areas, is going to release on Windows 10, Steam, Xbox One, and Series X. New Genesis will also release on any additional platforms that PSO2 will be made available on. So, a lot of question about this game coming to PS4 here in the West. I think it absolutely should, and we're going to keep fighting for that aspect. I do think there is a terms of exclusivity in terms of a time window. Obviously, the game's running in Japan on PS4, so I would venture to bet that we will see that happen at some point in the future, and hopefully I'll be able to give you guys that good news at some point. Anyway, will your PC be able to run this game? So for low quality, they've got it listed an Intel Core i5 at a 9400 or equivalent, high quality Intel Core i9 10990 900 or equivalent. RAM, low quality 8 gigs, high quality 16 gigs. Hard drive space, you want at least 100 gigabytes. That's 70 for PSO2, 30 for New Genesis. So you don't actually have to have the 70 for PSO2. So that's actually very, very relieving. Screen resolution is going to run from anywhere from 720p all the way to 1080p. Graphics card, they at least for low quality want you on a GeForce GTX 950, Radeon R9 285 or equivalent, up to GeForce RTX 2070 Super or Radeon RX 57 XT or equivalent. Sound card, no recommendation given, and DirectX 11 is going to be using, is what they're going to be running. And the absolute minimum requirements ask for Intel Core i3 4150 CPU, EAX is required, and either an NVIDIA GeForce GT430 and AMD Radeon HD 5570 GPU. If you're using hardware weaker than that, the game will refuse to run. So just note that is going to be your requirements set by Sega in this case. Can you run this game on Mac OS and Linux? As long as NProtect GameGuard acts as the PSO2 anti-cheat, no, you will not. You'll have to use a virtual machine with Windows running on it, and if you're curious to why GameGuard doesn't work in Wine, it relies on the kernel mode driver, in which Wine cannot actually handle this currently. If you get a decent performance in a virtual machine, specifically after PSO2's graphic engine update, you will need to pass through a GPU using PCI pass-through, which is well beyond the scope of this video and of these documents themselves. We've got links again for you guys in the description. Hopefully this has given you some good information about PSO2 New Genesis. I'm going to be playing the beta this weekend, so hopefully you guys look forward to that, and we can have more conversations as we gear up for the release here in June. New Genesis has been something that I've been very excited to play, and with its announcement and the fact that my levels don't carry over has given me the excuse to kind of finish up things in Final Fantasy XIV, Outriders, and other games like that. But anyway, guys, we're going to be doing a lot of New Genesis coverage here on the channel, so if you enjoy Phantasy Star, hopefully you consider hitting subscribe and like if you feel like I've earned it with this video itself. Again, check all the links for all this information. So much more has already been pre-compiled by the community. I cannot thank them enough for having all this information, and hopefully me passing it along to you has been a help. And that's going to wrap it up for me, guys. For Ginger Prime, my name is Brian. Thanks for being here. Hopefully you have a fantastic day. I hope to see you in my next video. But until then, take care. This video is sponsored by me, Ginger Prime. Hopefully you'll check out my podcast channel, Ginger Gaming Radio, which we have lots of guests, lots of great conversations, and even more highlights. Links are in the description below. Let me know what you think. Thanks.